Welcome to the Renegade Nutrition Podcast, where we discuss all things nutrition.
I'm Eleni Welch, nutritionist.
And I'm Kay Boyer, health enthusiast. All right. Hello, Renegades.
Hi, Renegade.
Hey, welcome back.
To the Renegade Nutrition Podcast.
With Kay Boyer.
And Eleni Welch.
All right. Let's learn a little bit more today about sugar.
Sugar. This is part 3 of our 3-part series on sugar, which I think we decided to call the sugar cereal.
The cereal series.
Sugar the serial killer.
That's right, the serial killer. That's right. So thank you for following along with us. And I have so many questions as a civilian for you, Eleni, that I want to know more about the nutrition side of sugar that from a practical standpoint today.
Standpoint.
Yeah.
So I'm only going to bore you guys for a little bit with facts and numbers, and then we're going to hop right into our question and answer session.
Yes, to what to do about this. Help me with my life, right. Eleni.
Because I like talking about all the science and all the interesting stuff about it, and you're like, yeah, okay, but what's the
but yeah.
How do we? Okay, we know it's bad. What do we do?
It's bad. But true, we love the information of it's that bad. Yeah. So that is good. We want all that good stuff too. So
I'm one of those people that I have to know why I'm doing something. I can't just do it because somebody tells me.
Oh yeah.
I should.
Okay.
I'm I need to know exactly why, and if I can understand why, I'm all for it. But I just don't really do anything unless I know exactly why I'm doing it.
Yeah, fair. And I will only do it because you tell me to. So the world takes all kinds. The world takes us all.
I almost spit my tea out.
Good. Spit my gin out. Okay.
It's just a full cup of gin with a tea bag.
Yeah, one tea bag. Yeah. Whatever works. That's awesome.
Okay. So just a couple of facts to kind of bring us back up to speed. So the last 2 episodes, I talked about some of the health consequences of consuming sugar, and then the propaganda of big sugar and how it's still considered even a health food by some circles.
Which is crazy. Okay, sugar, you gotta go. You gotta go.
Crazy.
Yep. The lie about sugar has to end.
Yep. So as a reminder of where we're at as a nation, so between 1980 and 2014, obesity rates in the United States more than doubled. Which is a short period of time.
Golly, and that's our generation of...
Yeah. Okay. Which is why when people are like, oh, obesity is genetic. I'm overweight because my parents were overweight. I'm like, maybe that's a piece, but it wouldn't have doubled. Right. To that extreme, right. Because we're actually having less kids. So.
Yes, fair. And it's but look at the lifestyle of us all as a whole. We're all, yes.
So
it's that modernizing life. Yep.
Definitely a genetic component to obesity, but because of epigenetics and the whole idea that you can change your genetics through your environment, that's why we work to control our diets, because you can switch those genes for obesity off. So there are people that are more prone genetically to being overweight. However, you have control over it. You are never overweight simply because of genetics. There are epigenetic factors that trigger that.
Yes.
And it's not necessarily all diet and exercise. There's a lot of other factors. Anyway, that's an aside. And 1 in 10 adults are diabetic, which is disproportionately higher in Black and Hispanic populations compared to whites and Asians. And as of 2020, more than 1 in 3 adults have prediabetes.
Ooh-wee.
Yeah. So I think that 1 in 10 diabetes rate, we're going to see that drastically increase, because typically with prediabetes, if you continue living your same lifestyle, it's going to develop into diabetes.
And we're here to give support to you guys of how you can change that lifestyle and change how you feel and your whole life experience because of that.
Yeah. Yep. And I know we've established so the average American eats way too much sugar. What does that actually mean? So 200 years ago, the average American consumed roughly 2 pounds of sugar per year.
Per year.
Great
grandpa Albine was having 2 cups per year.
Albine.
How's that? Rest in peace. It is actually my grandpa's middle name, which I'm assuming he got from his great. Yeah.
Oh, fine. Okay. Never heard that before.
Yes.
So 200 years ago, we were eating roughly on average 2 pounds of sugar per year.
Oh, that's your birthday cake and maybe a pie at Christmas? Yes. I don't know. Okay.
Yeah. Today, we consume roughly 152 pounds of sugar in a year.
That is amazing.
Averages out to 3 pounds a week. So we eat
3 pound, like 3 pound bags a week. Of sugar going through our bodies.
More sugar, a pound extra sugar per week than we used to eat in an entire year.
Holy cow, only great-great-grandpa ago. Oh my word.
Yeah.
So like Kool-Aid, at the bottom of the Kool-Aid when it's just like that pure sugar and milk. I mean, just like, that is like disgusting to me now to just think we're like inhaling that much. Okay.
Yeah, or like when I was like a kid and we would sit in a restaurant and I would sneak sugar packets while we were waiting for our food and just
eat pure sugar.
Just like pour.
And was your mom afterwards like, go to bed, you crazy animal?
I honestly don't know. I think
I
was a pretty well-behaved kid.
Oh, you were still okay. I was jumping off the walls. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. I can't remember, but I know I don't have kids, but I know for people that have kids, like they said if their kids don't eat much sugar and then they do.
Yes. Oh, it can totally
night
tell.
And day difference.
Yes.
So I imagine I was a little asshole when I ate that much sugar.
Yes.
But I also ate that much sugar kind of a lot.
Oh, so your psyche was used to that stimulation.
So I might have just been maybe I was just like a low grade asshole.
Yes. And next episode, we will be having your mom on to tell us the truth. That's fair. Yeah, my kids are, maybe that's what my kids' problems are. That's why they're little assholes. That's cereal I gave them. I did give them cereal this morning. This is a full disclosure. It's so hard. And this is part of the later when I ask you questions. The modern way, I tell you what, normally let's do eggs, let's do French toast, let's do something. And on these lazy mornings, I'm like, just have cereal, I'm tired. So we want to help you guys get to a way where it's not always just like, oh, I'm just tired, have cereal. Anyway.
And also that you have grace for yourself.
Yes.
And you understand that there just are going to be times when like maybe that's what happens and it's not your preference. But that's why I'm a big fan of that 80-20 rule that we talk about as, I mean, if 80% of the time you're making decisions that lead you towards better health, then you have grace for yourself the 20% of the time that you don't. And kids have to learn balance. I think if you were like strict mom, like you only eat broccoli for breakfast. Yeah. Once they got out of your house, I mean,
they just eat ho-hos
they go crazy
all day.
Because they've not had any exposure to sugar and they don't know how to moderate it. And that to me is almost worse. So there is a fine line between like being overly permissive about it and like creating problems like obesity and diabetes. And then being overly strict about it. And creating rebels. That they're like, F you. They leave the house and they're like, that's what
sugar packets.
Exactly.
It is that like moderation, real life, like, I think our generation and our kids is now generation, their greatest struggle in life will be to moderate all of the addictions of life, like all the screen time, all the comforts, all the foods, all the pleasures. It's more like, wait, you gotta moderate that shit. You gotta like hold on here. So
they're facing way more. Than we
have to self-control, and then like self-control takes energy, and anyway, that's a whole other beast.
Thing. So we'll tackle that. Anyway, so those are kind of the stats. So we're eating 152 pounds of sugar in a year. It's way too much.
That's crazy.
I don't know. If you don't include fruit sugar, I think it's totally doable to go back to that 2 pounds of sugar.
Oh, yes.
Because it's not like our ancestors were suffering.
Right.
Like they weren't dying. I mean, they were dying maybe of like some diseases and stuff, but it wasn't because they didn't have enough sugar.
Right.
So it's totally doable to go back to that. However, I think we're up against, like you just said, so many more barriers today.
Yes.
Because of the wide availability of sugar, whereas 200 years ago, sugar was like a commodity.
Yeah.
It may be like, You might trade and get a ship
Yep.
from like Portugal or Spain or something with
Yep.
sugar on it.
Yep.
And you might get that once a year.
I would sell my cabin for that 3 pounds of sugar. I would take my keys. Yep. Here's my horse and buggy.
So ask me some of your questions.
Okay. So, questions.
Actually.
Yes.
Actually. So when you and I first met, this is what, like, one thing I've been thinking would be valuable for you to share.
Oh yeah.
Because you and I, we coached. I was your nutritionist.
She is my nutritionist. That's how I tricked her into a podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. And we talked about, in the last podcast, we talked about like how you were doing all the things. Like you were already so health conscious.
Yes.
But you were still having sugar.
Yes.
And when we talked about it, you were like, no, I can't give sugar up. Like, it's my one thing.
Yeah, I was like, let me have my sugar.
It's my one thing. And I'm like, okay, well. Yeah. I was like, you're also coming to me and complaining about, like, fatigue
at
and
3 o'clock every day.
And I was like, this is the only thing you're doing that could be causing those things. So, like, try eliminating it.
It's still painful to hear it right now again.
Yeah. You did it.
Yeah.
So maybe just share how did you approach that journey to eliminating sugar?
Yep.
Okay, that goes. Does that need to be plugged into something?
I'm unsure. We got a new
you guys every
podcast
episode.
Okay,
every episode we're like, God, I feel like an absolute ape when it comes to technology. Like if I had a stick right now, I would just be hitting that camera with a
it's in the computer. I don't know. You know what? We don't need video. Just listen to our voices.
We don't need video.
Didn't have to do our hair today.
I was like, this would be a lot easier if we didn't have video because I would not need to put on makeup.
I know, and we can stay in sweatpants. Okay, we're staying on just the podcast from now on. All right, buckle in. We're going podcast. Okay. So what were we saying? Oh, our journey. Okay, so my journey. So my journey, assisted by Eleni. Thank you for waking me up to my awareness to my addiction. So first off was becoming consciously aware that I had an addiction to sugar and that sugar was a problem. So then I would just like notice I ate good.
You did.
And then I would see the like brownie batter in my freezer and the cookie dough in my freezer or like a wrapper in my car that I'm like, I eat real good and then I have these. So then it was like, I am consuming more sugar than I think. Like, it's like sneaking in, right? Yeah. Like, and I love ketchup. I used to put a lot of ketchup on things, so I've kind of learned that. Anyway, so my changes, I just had to do, somebody told me about Lily's chocolate. So Lily's chocolate is made with stevia. I do want to ask you about some of these things later. So I started giving myself replacements. So I use Trader Joe's cashew butter. Is like heaven on earth. Tastes like cookie dough, but it is only cashew butter and almond butter. And which I'm not supposed to have a lot of almonds, but I sneak it in because it's delicious. And I added those Lily's chocolate, and that made me think I was having cookie dough. But there is no added sugar in that cashew butter, but it tastes like it, guys. So I also always did like paleo brownies that I started using a little bit of coconut sugar or a little less sugar. So I started with replacements, and that helped me survive. And then I started using like fruit as my sugar instead. So now I would say I'm getting away from fruit a little more than I used to. I used to have a lot more fruit. But now I kind of just use those. And I've keep reminding myself now when I eat food, even my kids, I'm like messing up my kids, but in the best way. So like if they see, this is the truth. If we see someone who's just like an older person, which we all age, so like that's normal, but I'll be like, oh well they ate a lot of sugar, so that's why to my kids, and they'll be like, oh, I can't have sugar, I don't want to be,
they might have also done meth, but we're not going to talk about
we're not introducing meth to my children's vocabulary yet. That was sugar that did that was sugar. So anytime we kind of see that, I'm training this, and I'm also trying to train that out of me. Okay, also like McDonald's tastes wonderful, like fast food. I shouldn't just say McDonald's because you have some good salads, but like fast food burgers, whatever, I've trained myself to be like, no, that is so gross, that is so bad, like I don't want that. So I'm kind of training that into me as a behavior modification that is kind of helping. Yeah. And I will say this, I don't know if I told you this, so I did a group for 30 days on Facebook with my friends.
Oh, I was going to ask you. This was your January challenge.
This is my January challenge.
How that went.
Well, here's how it went. Ready? So 30 days with no sugar and 30 days of sweating. to try to help detox my body and get sugar out of me. So I have 18 girls, and my husband did this. And about halfway through, I got real stressed. I had, a hard day at work. I didn't eat till 2. I went to the grocery store. I went to the natural grocery store, and there was, you ready for this? Paleo cookies. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I thought, well, my journey was just no real white processed sugar, right? I can looked at the ingredients, coconut sugar. And I thought, you know what? This is gray area. I'm just going to let myself have a little. I know I said no, but I'm really stressed. I'm really hungry. And right now I don't care. So, Eleni, I opened the bag and I had a cookie that tasted glorious. I ate the whole bag. I ate the entire bag. I swear to you, ate the whole damn bag, and I puked all night. No, I did. Puked all night. Oh my God. So that brought me back. So guys, we all do this. We all eat the whole bag. Like that is who we are.
That's how sugar works.
That is how it works. Yep. So now I reminded myself, this is why I don't eat sugar.
Because I barf all night.
Because I literally threw up 3 times and laid in my bed. It was so bad. So honestly, and then I was back on the train, and I'm like, no sugar. It makes me want to puke, because it literally does. So anyway, I would say in general, I've kicked it. I feel so much better. I can tell when I have it now, my lymph nodes actually start to swell. I'm more aware of my physiological changes in the moment. And also my psyche, my mood. I can tell if I give myself that cookie or whatever, 30 minutes later, I just am yelling at my kids. And I don't know why exactly. Yeah. So paying attention to the reactions that my body and my mind do to sugar is now controlling my behavior to now be like, okay, I'm going to get the reward of that beautiful feeling on my tongue, but I'm going to be super mad and not feel good in 30 minutes. So is it worth it? Sometimes it is, but you know what? Most oftentimes it's not.
Yeah.
Yep. And I've been doing a little bit, I do sometimes honey, sometimes maple syrup. I kind of watch those, but those kind of help me. And now those are such treats, right? Yeah. Now that is this is so good.
Yeah. When you can have it, it's extra special.
Yes. Yeah. Wow. So that's sort of where I'm at. I mean, still always evolving, but definitely better than I was. And I definitely feel better than I used to. Wow. So thank you for your help on my journey.
You're welcome. Thanks for sharing
opening my eyes to the sugar demon.
It's actually, that's a really powerful testimonial about it too, because I think it's what people are so unaware of how much inflammation sugar creates in their bodies, and because it's low grade all the time. Yeah. You just don't even notice that it's making you feel bad until you cut it out. Yes. And now you're kind of this perfect example. You said, I can even feel the difference in my lymph nodes.
Yes.
How many people experience that on a daily basis but have no idea?
Yeah.
Because they have that feeling all the time and they can't distinguish it anymore. Whereas if they weren't being exposed all the time to that, you become a lot more aware of when... Yep. Those changes happen. Anyway, it's fascinating.
And now a headache and just kind of being aware of it is wild how and that's what's I'm like, gosh, I wish sugar didn't exist, that I didn't have to fight it. But that's the reality of life, right? I gotta fight that. So
if it wasn't sugar, it'd probably be cocaine or something.
Yeah. Maybe you feel better in that stage. I'm not sure.
We self-soothe with whatever we can find. So if sugar didn't exist, we'd probably all be a bunch of meth heads.
Find something. Yeah. Hey, no judgment. I get it. Yeah.
That's what we do, is self-soothe.
Yep.
Okay, ask me some of your questions.
Let's see. Okay. So now that we know, that I know now that sugar, I know you bad. I know you have bad effects. Why is it so dang difficult? Why is it so difficult?
Yeah. Why is it difficult to quit?
To quit. Yes.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think probably there's several reasons for that. I mean, one thing is that it's addictive.
Yep. Which we touched on some of this, but golly.
And I do have in my notes some information on that, because I find that fascinating. So it's addictive. It's everywhere and in everything.
Yes.
In everything.
Snuck into things.
Yeah. Anything that is processed or packaged has sugar in it because it stabilizes it and gives it a shelf life and gives it better texture and all of that.
And tastes better.
So it's everywhere.
Yep.
Yeah. It's everywhere.
Yep.
And then the third thing is that, I mean, we really are bombarded all the time, whether we realize it or not, with exposure in the form of advertisements. But also, like, think about when you're with your friends who aren't like-minded when it comes to health decisions. Think about, like, if you go over to a friend's house and they are not monitoring their sugar, like, they're going to offer you things with sugar in them.
Yep.
And so it's...
Here's a cake, here's a cookie, here's the Pops, here's the...
And if you are being like, oh, no, a lot of times people kind of, like, poke fun at you or... That's
true. Even the cultural... you're right. I have a friend that used to, like, take health things to our in-laws, and we're like, why do they do that? You know, like, oh my gosh, it's almost snotty.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, why are we judging someone who wants to better their system? Like,
have you ever heard the analogy of crabs in a bucket? That all of the crabs are in the bucket, and if one starts to be able to climb out, the other crabs grab onto it and start pulling down on it because they want to get out too, but they pull each other down so no one ever escapes. I feel like that's kind of
our culture and sugar. Oh my word!
As soon as somebody starts climbing out of that bucket and getting free and realizing there's a better way,
we're like, no, that makes me feel bad. You get back down here with us.
Exactly. I'm like, no, that's convicting.
Yep.
You do what I'm doing, and I'll feel better about myself.
So true. That cultural pressure, it's real. Yeah. It's real.
Yeah. So, I mean, so just going to, like, the advertisement side of things, if you watch TV or if you are on social media, you're going to see advertisements for sugar.
Delicious.
And literally, sugar is so addictive. I've heard people say it's as hard to quit as cigarettes.
Okay.
So for people that have smoked, they said quitting sugar was as hard as quitting smoking. And you think about it, if you were smoking and trying to quit, and you had advertisements on your TV all the time, or as you scrolled through your feed of cigarettes, like, how much harder would it be to quit if you were seeing it all the time because you crave it?
Yes.
And then you see it, and then it starts running through your brain, and you can't, like, So seriously, I think that's a big part of it, and, like, the advertising is real. Yeah. Like, literally 2018... there was over $1 billion spent on advertising sugary drinks, including sodas and sports drinks.
No, drinking is such a way to it goes through you so fast.
Yes. So, and especially, like, young kids are disproportionately targeted by sugar advertisements for sugar cereals, for junk food.
Ugh.
For sugary drinks, and then they see that on the TV, and then they ask their parents for it, and then they see it in the supermarket if they're going grocery shopping with their parents, and, like, even if they don't know it, they've already, like, seen that brand, they've heard
it's
that
familiar,
jingle,
it's bright colors.
They're asking for it. They don't even know why they're asking for it. That's the way the human brain is hardwired.
That's what's familiar, and
And then they start throwing a fit in the grocery store, and so their parent breaks down and buys it for them. That's why. Because adults are generally more like, they might see an advertisement be like, yeah, no, that's not good for me. But kids, like, they're going to ask for it because they don't know any different. Yes. They're going to be the ones to wear down their parents so their parents buy it. It's the most effective way for them to advertise is to young kids. Yeah. And there's disproportionate advertisements to Black and Hispanic communities, which I was reading a really interesting article because you've probably seen this. Yeah. Athletes, like famous athletes, advertising. Yep. Even if it's for, like, Pepsi or Coca-Cola. Yeah. And they also advertise for Gatorade and Powerade, which I forget which company owns which. Yeah. But
I'm not sure either.
Okay, so Coca-Cola owns Powerade.
Okay.
Pepsi owns Gatorade.
Ooh.
This is funny to me.
Oh, yeah.
Because Pepsi and Cola are so, like, people mix those up all the time, and then Gatorade and Powerade, like...
Oh, totally. Yeah. They're not distinguished in my brain at all.
Yeah, there are these, like, massive... massive companies that are competing with each other, and their products are, like, all the same. Yeah. But, so a lot of athletes, if they're not advertising junk food or McDonald's or... Yep. Like, you see that, right? And it sends this really confusing message because...
that athlete is not drinking that stuff. No. Or they couldn't perform at that level.
No. There are these healthy people. And so when kids especially see that, these these people that are their role models, they see that they're healthy. They're like, well, if they eat or drink that, it must be fine.
Yep.
Like they're this power athlete. And then they idolize them too. So they want to do what they're doing.
Yep.
And adults are the same way. But I read this really interesting fact that especially for sports and athletics, Hispanic populations are way more likely to buy a product that they see advertised by one of their sports teams or one of their favorite athletes than any other like culture.
Oh, interesting.
And so Hispanic populations are heavily targeted with advertisements for junk food and for sports drinks and sugary drinks because they're more likely than any other population to go out and buy that product.
And those companies like prey on that.
Yeah.
Naughty.
So especially, I mean, in Black populations are also, they've shown in advertisements more heavily advertised to than white populations. And so I think that's one of the things you have to realize is you're up against a lot, like every day. So you're seeing the advertisements, your friends are talking about it, which is like guerrilla marketing.
Yep.
Having your friends talk about it.
Yep.
So you're constantly bombarded, and that makes it
culture,
so
that pressure,
much
and that
harder to
yep.
quit. And if you do quit, you're seen as an outlier.
Yep.
Which makes it socially uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yep.
So I think that that's really interesting. So this was just a little bit of a fact. Let's see. So Spanish marketing dollars on Spanish language television rose to 84 million in 2018, which was an 80% increase since 2010. So they're really targeting those Hispanic populations heavily, and they've done their research and they realize like that's how they can affect change.
Like
and those populations have some of the highest levels of obesity and diabetes. So there's got to be
a connection.
Yep. They're being targeted with these advertisements for junk food, for sugary drinks, and as we would expect, they're buying more of it, and obesity and diabetes is going up more. So,
dang.
So I think like what we have to understand is what our kids are up against, and we have to stop making sugar look sexy.
Yes. You're right. How can we do advertisements of we're going to use meth pictures. We're going to use meth pictures, and we're going to, see, I'm advertising to my kids.
Yeah.
That sugary makes you look like a meth head.
You remember those commercials? I remember seeing them as a kid where they would have somebody who was like a lifelong smoker, and they would have that hole.
The tracheotomy idea. Yep.
And they were talking through like a robot, and like, this is what smoking does. Like that's what we need to do with sugar.
You're right.
And honestly, you don't have to put up a picture of a meth head. You can put up a picture of somebody who's consumed too much sugar all their life. You can show that person in their everyday life, and that would be a big turnoff.
You can. Yes, that's so true. Show me yelling at my kids 30 minutes after having sugar, and show my lymph nodes swelling. Yes.
Or show someone who's struggling with heart disease or diabetes or like, oh my gosh, so somebody having to get their foot amputated because of diabetes. Like, just show the truth. Like,
show the truth. You nailed it. This is good.
Yeah, unless we have our own television network, though, it's never going to happen because sugar pays big bucks.
Okay, on our new advertisements here on our podcast, you are going to see the ill effects of sugar.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is athletes, they're role models. You shouldn't be advertising this crap. Like, you can do better.
That. I know and everything comes back to the dollar, right? Yeah. Like, they're getting money for advertising. And I know if someone told me, here's $1 million to make sugar look good, I'd be like, dang it. But yeah, I need that $1 million. So sugar's great. Dang.
Yeah.
Money, it's all come back to money.
So this is the study I was talking about. So a 2019 study, found that Latino sports fans are significantly more likely than non-Latino counterparts to support companies that sponsor their teams or leagues by subsequently purchasing their products for the first time.
Okay.
So
it's so true how we're all impressed upon by the media and advertisements and like, golly.
And then if you think about, so then Black populations are also way more heavily targeted with these advertisements for sugary drinks and for junk foods, which here's an interesting fact is that the sugar industry is literally like built on the back of slavery.
Okay. Okay.
Which is like, okay.
It's all redeemed. That all needs redeemed. Yikes.
So African slaves were imported to work in sugarcane fields in the Middle East, Mediterranean, colonized islands along the Atlantic, North and South America, Caribbean, Barbados, and others. So as the sugar industry grew, slavery also grew, and the import of slaves to support those sugarcane fields also grew, because they would like move into these new territories, kill off all the local people that were working their sugarcane farms, and then have to import black slaves in order to support their sugarcane farms. So by the 1830s, when British emancipationists put an end to the slave trade, some 12.5 million African slaves had been shipped to the Americas, 2/3 of whom worked and died growing and refining sugar.
My word. And
now they're being targeted by sugar. Okay,
the new evil.
The new evil. And they're having disproportionately higher rates of obesity and diabetes. And so that loop
like the
of
cycle.
oppression just continues.
Right.
Anyway,
I know.
I just feel like that's an important thing for you to understand. The evil of sugar goes far beyond what it does
just to our body. And like seeing behind the curtain of that. Ew. Okay.
So vote with your dollars. Stop supporting the sugar industry. Like if you are like, what can I do to end this cycle of oppression for like just stop fucking buying sugar. And stop supporting that industry which has oppressed people from the beginning.
With our consumer power. Okay.
Our consumer power.
I'm in it.
Yeah.
Golly.
Yeah. So, and then like we, so why is it so hard to quit sugar? Okay, so that's the advertising.
Okay, which that psychology,
it's pushed into your face all the time.
Yep.
And then the other thing is that sugar is addictive. I mean, so here's some interesting facts. Sugar stimulates your opiate receptors.
Okay.
The same way that like opiates do.
Okay.
So sugar stimulates the same receptors and influences epigenetics. So it literally builds a brain with a natural craving for substances that influence opiate receptors. So if you have exposure to sugar as a child, you build an addictive brain and you're more likely to be susceptible to becoming a drug addict later in life because you have already built a pathway of constantly stimulating those pleasure receptors.
Oh, and like wanting to feed the pleasure. Oh.
So it's not saying like people that eat a lot of sugar are going to just naturally transition to drugs, but you are more prone to becoming addicted because you've already built out that response. So somebody that didn't have a ton of sugar as a kid, it takes longer for those opiate receptors to be conditioned to receiving those substances.
Okay.
But if you're having a lot of sugar, you've been basically training your brain to become addicted since childhood.
Wow.
So that's how
be adamant.
It can actually make you more easily addicted to other substances later in life, but also sugar induces your endogenous opiate release. So like our brains release like chemicals that make us feel good and happy. And sugar induces that opiate release, which is what crack cocaine does. And in some studies, it's been shown to be as much or more addictive than cocaine.
Okay.
And the sweet taste triggers the same pleasure centers in the brain as heroin. So,
gosh, I wish I knew more about drugs to differentiate heroin from cocaine. I'm like, who knows which makes
I think it's okay that you don't.
Okay, this is okay. But I know the effects of sugar. I've had a hard life.
Isn't that interesting? So heroin and sugar cause the same response in the brain.
Crazy.
Which is why sugar is so addictive.
It is. I'm addicted.
It's triggering those pleasure sensors. So, and also there's something in the brain that they've shown where the more sugar you eat, the fewer dopamine receptors you have in your brain, which makes it harder and harder for you to feel energy and pleasure from your body's own production of dopamine. So this is what's called dopamine resistance.
Okay.
And that's what happens in drug addicts. And that's
why need more.
You need more and more and more to trigger the same responses that used to be triggered by a smaller amount. So sugar can do that. And then there's another thing we have called sweet taste habituation, which is the more sugar you consume, the less sweet it tastes to you, and the more you have to add to get the same sweet taste. So I've seen this in diabetic people where they like with type 2 diabetes where they've consumed so much sugar.
Okay.
They need more and more in order to even taste it.
Oh, yeah.
So you might start out with like a tablespoon.
Yep.
Seriously, I've seen people put crazy amounts of sugar in their coffee.
Yes.
You might start out with like needing a tablespoon in your coffee, but when somebody's reached the level of like insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes, like, dude, they could be putting a quarter cup in their coffee, and like it doesn't taste as sweet to them.
No bueno.
So that is the danger.
Yes, agreed.
And that's why, again, excuse me.
Yeah.
Just recovering from the plague here.
Yes.
Like when you're so used to having so much sugar, it dulls your taste buds, and it makes other foods taste less sweet and less flavorful. And then you crave it more because you crave... Anyway, I think that's really interesting.
Yes.
And, like, I even noticed that I did the blood sugar solutions diet now it's probably like 8 or 9 years ago. Just at the start of my journey.
Yeah.
And I remember being, like, 20 days into it, and I hadn't had any added sugar, which was new for me. And I bit into a bell pepper, and it was almost overwhelmingly sweet.
I love this. Yes. I love this. Now fruit is like so sweet. Yeah. Yes.
And
things. Yeah.
Go ahead. No,
I agree that just when you change that habits, yes, it's wild.
Yeah. And since that, I did that. Yeah, it was probably 8 or 9 years ago that I did that blood sugar solutions diet, which was the first time I'd ever done anything like that. And I did not eat healthy. I did not eat healthy for most of my life. So that was the first time I'd ever done anything like that. I remember that experience, and I still, to this day, since doing just that 1 month program, I still can't eat anything like frosting or cupcakes.
Oh, yeah.
Or like anything like that tastes nauseatingly sweet to me, and it's been that way since doing that. So just that 1 month program like completely reset my taste buds.
Love that.
And because I never went back to then consuming those sugary treats, they all just taste nasty to me.
Yes.
I'm like, oh my God, it's so much sweet. Like, I can't even handle it.
I'll jump in on that bandwagon here for Christmas. My mother-in-law was like, oh, you're not going to quit sugar. You're going to eat my cookies and cupcakes. And I remember thinking, I know that doesn't even like sound good at all to me anymore. Mm-hmm. Like that's like, I don't know, which I mean, that is like, my mother-in-law, I love her, and that's her love language is food, which it also comes back to the culture idea that like that's her way of showing love and receiving love. Mm-hmm. So then it's hard to be like, no, I love you. My body just doesn't love that. So that kind of finding new ways to show love and appreciation in our culture is kind of what I had to do. So
and just speaking of our culture, I think our culture trains us to crave sugar as like comfort food.
Yes.
And we see it oftentimes. I mean, there's a reason for it, but we see it a lot more around the holidays. And you do associate that with family and love and
gatherings.
And gatherings. And so many people have built really positive memories around food.
Yes, it's all in our brain.
And then it includes those sugary foods, and that's part of the wiring of our brains.
Yep.
To want sugar and to crave it as this comfort food. Yes.
Trigger and response.
And you see it even culturally. You see it on TV. I have this really distinct memory. I don't know if you ever watched the show Gilmore Girls.
No, I like watched 2 episodes, but yes.
I watched it with my sister. Those ladies ate so much fucking sugar. I went back and watched like a couple episodes as an adult. I'm like, oh my God, they ate like total crap. Anyway, so I remember watching an episode of that where they were going through some difficult emotional situation. I think Rory had broken up with her boyfriend. Yes. And her mom, like, they sat down and ate this like tub of ice cream.
I was going to say pint of ice cream. Totally.
Together.
That's the romance movie. You grab the pint of ice cream.
And they're like crying. Like this.
And with their spoon.
With their spoons, like makeup's running down their face. Yes. Like it's not even just that show. I'm not meaning to target, but like literally every like movie or show.
Yes, romantic rom-com. You're crying in a bucket of ice cream.
Yes, Bridget Jones's Diary. Like, hello. Yes. Like, that is like, I swear to God. And so I remember,
we're
wired to think that is the appropriate response to pain.
Wow.
Is to consume sugar. So I remember being 16 years old. This is so vivid to me.
Yes.
16 years old, I went through my first breakup.
Heartbroken.
Yeah. And I was like, okay. I'm like, literally, I remember thinking, oh, I know what to do in this situation. I eat ice cream and I cry. Literally.
No.
I've never been exposed to anything like that before.
This is how you cope.
Yeah, I was like, cope with ice cream. This? Like, I'm feeling like these emotions over this breakup, and I'm like, oh, I know what will make me feel better, because
crying in a tub of ice cream.
Because things always worked out.
Wow.
For the women in those shows, movies, right? Because then, like, they were dating the asshole. They went through this rough breakup, and then Prince Charming shows up.
He was handsome and he
so
loved
I'm like,
her.
This is the natural progression of things getting better. Is I have to go through this this depressive
After
phase.
you ate that tub of ice cream, did your awesome husband show up like the next day? Is that how that worked? Did it work?
No, let's see. He showed up in my life like literally like, oh my God, what was it? 10 years later.
10 years. How many tubs of ice cream did you have to have before she showed up?
That's a good question. Well, 3 more.
Three more tubs of ice
4
cream.
4 more after that.
Or just 3 more tubs. We'll just call them tubs.
Tubs. Isn't that crazy?
That is such a good example.
I'm like, how do I deal with this this emotional situation?
Such a good example.
Rather than taking this healthy response, I went back to the only exposure I'd ever had to seeing how somebody coped with that breakup situation was they ate ice cream.
That is like astonishing how poignant a good example that is for all of us in our life. Our reality is like formed by television, and we need to like cut that line and be like, wait, try something else.
Yeah. Yep. And I feel like for people that are emotional eaters where they eat sugar, really what you're covering up is a bigger problem, right? Yeah. Which is that you don't have a healthy way of dealing with your emotions and hard situations.
Yes.
And so if you're turning to addictive substances like sugar or alcohol in order to cope through that, the real problem is that you need to learn healthy behaviors to deal with those situations.
Get the support crew, This is from a Dax Shepard Armchair Expert podcast, and with is it Johan? Someone, I'll have to find it. But in Spain, was it? My details aren't great, but they were having a drug crisis, and to solve it, the whole government got individual mentors, and they half paid the person's salary, and then the mentor had to half pay to that this person with a drug problem would go work for this mechanic, and this mechanic was a mentor, pay him half their salary, the government would pay half the salary to rehab the country, and it worked. So they were showing how pain and judgment for drug addictions, not helpful, that kind of outcome doesn't, the hate and the judgment and the pain, that doesn't help. We need to give people better coping strategies. We need mentors. We need new behavior tips and triggers and modifications and the support group, and this is what we need. Yeah. And if we can solve the drug problem that way with AA groups, we need sugar addiction groups, I think is what we're saying. But to be all serious about this, those things that we need to solve the drug problem that we do actually need to use in our life to solve our own kind of problems,
Yeah, I think the biggest key is understanding, I don't know how to cope with this in a healthy way. That's the first thing I'm going to do.
Yes.
Because if you can have a healthy response and learn to work through difficult situations, you're not going to be turning to things like sugar to get you through it.
Yes.
So that might be a starting place for some people.
Yes. And turn to the light do I need a mentor for this? Do I need a support group? Do I need to get around people who are, quackier?
And teach your kids. Teach your kids that life is hard. They're going to go through hard situations. Teach them how to cope with those situations.
When they're young.
It's really interesting to me because I even see parents use sugar as a pacifier.
Yes.
For their kids.
I could see that as an easy way out.
It's an easy way out. Yep. If their kids are acting up or throwing a fit, they give them something sugary.
Yes.
To kind of shut them up. Because that keeps them happy for a little bit. But what's going to happen an hour later, now that kid's got this sugar spike, they're going to be even more misbehave
yes,
than they were an hour ago.
Then you put them on a screen, which is a whole nother beast, which kind of goes back to like the stress of that modern lifestyle that it's like, we're all just so stressed out. We're all coping. We're all doing the easy out. We're all trying to, it's like, gosh, where can we cut that trigger response to do something better?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm not going to pretend to be like, I don't have kids. I'm not going to pretend to be a parenting expert. I know that life is hard with kids and sometimes you compromise. But if you reward your kids emotional reactions or bad behavior with sugar, you're teaching them that that is how to cope with difficult things. Because usually if they're acting up, it's because they went through something difficult. You know, even at their youngest age, like they're experiencing difficult emotional transitions, and that's why they act up, or they had a hard day at school, or somebody's picking on them, or whatever. And so that's why they're acting up, and then sugar soothes them, and you are subconsciously teaching them that sugar is a solution.
Yes, and we need to teach them other coping skills, healthier, which we need to learn as adults.
Yeah, and that, I'm saying that with zero judgment in my heart. Just that's the fact. That's a recognition. We create this vicious cycle in our children, and then they perpetuate it with their children, and so on. And that's how we're creating this.
Because it's hard. It's all hard. I get it. Like we're all just trying to get through and thrive.
Yeah. What else you got
for me? Sure? Okay. Other questions. Okay. Let's see, how much time before like this sugar is sort of out of our system, or our taste buds aren't really craving it as much? Like how long is this going to be painful on our transition to a less sugar life?
I think, that really depends on the person and their exposure to sugar. So, for me, like I talked about going through that blood sugar solutions, I can't remember. I think it was around day 20 of it. Like I said, I bit into that bell pepper and it just tasted completely different.
Yep.
I don't know exactly at what day that transition happened, but I think that it's different for everybody. I have often heard that it takes 21 days to break a habit.
Okay. So the few weeks.
Yeah. And if that's where I think for some people, so if you're seriously addicted to sugar, because not everybody is, there's
like on the spectrum. Yep. Everything's,
Exactly. There's a spectrum. If you're really addicted to sugar, I think completely going cold turkey and not having any of it, like 21 days should on average be enough to help break at least the habit and the conditioning of reaching for it.
So push yourself for those 21 days.
Yeah, and I'm not saying you won't still crave it.
Yep, or eat a whole bag of cookies.
Yeah, but it's 21 days to break the habit. So if you are in the habit of reaching for sugar, like after a meal, like let's just say you give yourself something sweet after every meal, 21 days to break that habit.
Okay.
Doesn't mean you won't still crave it, but you're not just habitually doing it because that's what you've always done.
Yep.
And then I think I read somewhere when I was doing research for this that 7 days, like 7 days cold turkey is enough to help start resetting your taste buds.
Okay.
And that a month cold turkey should be enough to break the craving.
Okay. So we're talking like 7 days minimum. Try to get yourself on that, and then try to get as much you can up to a month, and try to see.
You'll start feeling better, and that's always motivating.
Yep.
So if you can get through those 7 days, you'll start to notice a difference. If you're eating a lot of sugar, there's no way you're not going to notice a difference.
Yep.
After 7 days without it, you might feel crappier, honestly, to start.
At first, yes.
Because people do go through, just because, like sugar, because it triggers all of those pleasure centers in your brain, just like a drug does, like heroin or cocaine. Some people experience similar withdrawal symptoms to sugar as they would to heroin or cocaine.
So it's a true withdrawal.
It's a true withdrawal. So people can get headaches, they can get body shakes, they can get weak, dizzy, fatigued.
Wow.
So you might feel really crappy.
Okay.
Even for that first week coming off of sugar, because your body is literally going through withdrawal.
Okay.
And then after that time period, you should start feeling better.
Okay. So I would say if your life is busy and you have work and you can't feel bad for a week, maybe try to lessen your amount until you can kind of get to that place.
Yeah.
Unless you can go, 7 days where you can feel bad and it's okay on vacation or whatever, like.
And the number one thing I would recommend if you're going to go cold turkey on sugar is to not do it at a stressful time in your life.
Okay.
So don't do it when you're starting a new job.
Yeah.
Or moving to a new town.
Yep.
Or whatever.
Just cope. Just cope.
Just cope. Yep. Like, that's not the time to do it. Or going through a divorce or a difficult relationship. Like, don't start it then.
Yep.
Because stress makes us crave comfort foods.
Yep.
And sugar is a comfort food, and you are setting yourself up for failure. So if you try and start and you aren't able to succeed, you're going to just, like, that negative self-talk is going to come in. That's like, oh no, I can't quit sugar. I tried really hard, but I couldn't do it. But like, what were the circumstances that you were in? Because if your life was stressful, that's not the time.
Yep.
You're naturally going to crave sugar in times of stress. That's even just a physiological response that your body has, because when you're under stress, you're in that like stress, fight or flight. Sometimes your body is like, I'm dying, and then you're craving quick energy to try and fuel your body, and that's sugar.
Gosh. Okay, what now, kind of talking on this, what are other ways that can help us curb that addiction? What are your kind of like, do you have like tips or tricks for that behavior support? Like, what do you think?
Yeah. So if you're seriously addicted, again, I'll say I think the best way to do it is to go cold turkey.
Okay.
And
rein it in.
So like, how do you know if you're addicted? So here's some signs that you might be addicted to sugar, is that you crave sugar even when you're not hungry.
Okay.
You crave sugar in response to negative emotions.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like you need to hide or lie about your sugar consumption.
Love this dirty closet secret of your sugar. Yes. I love it. Yes,
if you feel guilty about it and like you need to cover it up, oftentimes that's a sign that you're addicted to something.
Oh, fascinating. Okay, maybe, was I ever that bad? No, I just freely showed my sugar love
you were
everywhere.
open to me.
Yeah, I was open.
I don't know.
I didn't hide it. No, I didn't hide it.
And then you feel angry or upset at the thought of giving it up.
Oh, this is like true addictive behavior.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which I will say, with some of the nutritional patients I've worked with, I have seen that response.
Wow.
It's like, if I'm like, okay, well, you need to give up added sugar, it's like, they're like, that's ridiculous. And like, they immediately get kind of
their
snappy
body
with me.
It's like self-preservation. They're like, no, I need my addiction. I need it.
Like, that's stupid. Tell me what else you got. And I'm like, okay.
All right. We're going to work with this.
Yeah. So those are some signs that you're addicted. So if you have any of those, then it might be best for you just to go cold turkey. Okay. So, but as a tip for that, follow a program with a start and end date.
Okay.
Because I think having an end date makes it easier for people to stick with things.
Okay. Helps our brain.
So don't tell yourself, I'm never going to eat sugar again.
Because then it's like too overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to stick to it, right? So then if you have sugar, you feel like you failed.
Yep.
So like, set yourself up for success. So some of my favorite programs, if you're going to go cold turkey, are like the Whole30.
Yep. That was a good one.
The Blood Sugar Solutions diet. That's what I had done by Mark Hyman. I really like the Blood Sugar Solutions diet because he also really moderates like sugary fruit. And he's all about that, like very low, everything he recommends is low glycemic, which is important because if you're truly addicted to sugar, anything sweet is going to maintain that craving and that addiction. So even substitutes, like sugar substitutes in that situation, even though they won't cause the same blood sugar response and that insulin response, so they will provide you with a better like health outcome to make those substitutions. But if you make those substitutions, you can't break the addiction because you're still triggering those sweet receptors.
Oh, girl.
Because those sweet receptors are not exclusive to sugar. They also pick up on alternative. Anything that's sweet can trigger those receptors.
I still have like a banana a day with my Lily's chocolate on it. Is that okay? Am I
still
like a closet?
I don't think that's a problem, right? Like you're living the rest of your life. You're not consuming sugar by the buckets. But if you're somebody who that's going to be a trigger for you, that then opens up the gate.
Oh, no. And that's the banana is now the sweetest thing in the world to me. It's like so delicious. Okay.
So it's
but it's not
like you described with eating that bag of cookies. So like if you know, okay, if I open this bag of cookies, if I eat even just one,
I'm going to eat the whole thing.
It's going to open up the gate for me to eat the whole thing.
Yes.
So that's where like people who are addicted to sugar, even if you have a substitute for sugar that's like not a sugar, like xylitol or stevia, it still might trigger that craving, which then could lead you to continue craving sugar all day. So it's really best just to avoid it all. But that's why you need a program, again, with a start and an end date. Because even I don't avoid everything sweet all the time.
Right.
And so, like, if you are like, I'm never eating anything sweet again, you're never going to succeed at that. Or you're probably not going to, I shouldn't say never. Like, people do things that they're told they can't do all the time.
Yeah.
So I won't say never. Like, go, please do. I will not be the crab in the bucket pulling you down. If you, like, never eat anything sweet again, like, I'm in full support.
Yes.
But most people are not going to succeed at that kind of a goal.
Yes, that's psychology.
And you want to set yourself up for success. So a program like the Blood Sugar Solutions, it's only a month. It's way easier to convince yourself to not touch something for a month than it is to convince yourself you're not going to touch it for a lifetime. Yeah. And then by the end of that month, you will have curbed the addiction. Yep. You will have curbed the cravings. Yep. And things, regular everyday food, carrots and even like Brussels sprouts and broccoli, they'll all taste sweeter to you and you will not be craving sugar so much. Because that sweetness is going to like satisfy you.
I love it.
So that's my main, and don't start that program during a stressful time period in your life.
And I would say give yourself a reward at the end of it, but don't make that reward sugar. Yeah. Reward yourself with a brand new outfit or a hot tub day or whatever.
Yeah, spa day or something. A hiking trip that you've wanted to do. Like, give yourself that's a good idea. Celebrate. Like, even the micro wins, celebrate that. So if you're in the middle of like the Blood Sugar Solutions or Whole30 and you go to work and in the break room, there's like a box of donuts and you don't eat one of the donuts, like take the opportunity to be proud of yourself. That's one of the best like tips I've heard is you take a moment, you recognize that you just did something worthy of being proud of. Yes, that is worthy of pride. Yes. And then you say, that's like me. I say no to things that aren't good for me. That's like me. And then just give yourself a mental high five. Like, I love that affirmation so much. I love that. We need that. Yeah. I love that. That's a good way to do it. That's like me. I do healthy things for me. When we get our Halloween candy or candy in our stockings or whatever for presents, we go home and I throw it right away in the trash. And I just, now this is like, for me, I'm like proud that I do that I got the sugar out of my life. And I used to like go donate it to someone else, but then I thought, I actually don't want this other person to have this candy, right? Yeah. So now I put it in the trash and I'm like, good job that I got rid of that and made that choice that for me and my kids, we're out. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I know you need to celebrate it. Oh, I like that. Celebrate. Celebrate it. Give yourself that, like, recognize your wins. Yep. And then a few other things that can help you manage sugar cravings. Yes. As you're going through that period of eliminating it is to get enough sleep. Okay. Because studies have shown that adequate sleep actually reduces sugar cravings. And we tend to crave more sugar when we're sleep deprived. Oh, and we're a little more stressed, so we get weaker in our will because we're tired. So this is really an interesting thing. So, this was I can't remember now where I read this study, but like will to do or not do something is actually a like quantifiable thing. Yes, and it is not limitless. Yes, I've heard this. Yes. So you start out the beginning. So willpower, you start out the beginning of the day with a certain amount of willpower. Yes. And you only have so many times of saying no to something before you run out of willpower. Yes, mine's about 2:00 it seems to be. But yes. And so set up, sleep deprivation decreases your willpower first thing in the morning. Just 1:00. So you start out with less willpower. So by 1:00 or 12, you literally don't have the willpower to say no. I can recognize to that box of donuts in the break room anymore. Yes. Like you have reached your threshold. Yes. Which is another thing to say is set up your habits where it doesn't take your willpower to say no. So like make those donuts now out of your sight. Put the healthier things in front of your refrigerator. Put the less healthy things in the back. Put away anything out of sight, out of mind that is not good for you. And put the things that are good for you in easy accessibility. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. The easier you can make it on yourself, the better. I thought that was so interesting when I read that. It's like, so if you have to make a bunch of difficult decisions by like 10 a.m., you might have run out of willpower for the day. Yes. Then you're more likely to get home. That's also why when you get drunk.
Yes.
Or inhibited, you decrease your willpower threshold,
Yes.
which is why, like, if you ever, I've experienced this.
Which we all get funnier. Yeah. No.
If you, like, when I am, like, intoxicated, which it's been quite a while now since that's
at least a week.
Yeah. Since last night.
Yeah.
No. But when I'm intoxicated, I'm like, yeah, order pizza. Like, I'll eat all the gluten. I'll eat all the dairy. Like,
gluten,
I
dairy,
literally
sugar.
don't care.
Yes.
Whereas normally I would never do that.
Got it. Yep.
So
interesting.
Things that decrease your willpower set you up for failure because you're going to cave and do something you wouldn't normally do.
The way of the world right there.
Isn't that interesting?
That is very interesting. So watch all sides of that.
Yeah. So get enough sleep, eat satisfying meals. So when you are cutting sugar out of your life, it's not also the time to be like starting this restrictive fast and eating only like vegetable juices.
Yeah.
Like eat satisfying meals because otherwise you're going to be hungry, and the hungrier you are, the more you're going to crave sugar because it's quick energy. That's our body's innate response is to satisfy our energy needs quickly because we evolved in an environment where food was scarce.
Yes.
I mean, if you think about like our caveman ancestors, like they had to hunt for food, they had to work for food. And so food wasn't always like readily available, and so you were accustomed to craving whatever was going to provide you the quickest source of energy because you don't know when your next like meal is going to be.
Yes.
So eat satisfying meals. Make sure they include a protein, starch, and fat.
Yep.
And avoid wheat, gluten, and dairy, which all increase cravings for other foods like sugar.
Oh.
So it'd be a good time to cut those things out, especially like wheat and gluten.
Okay.
They've been shown to increase sugar cravings.
Wow.
And for most people, I don't think like dairy inherently is bad or wheat inherently is bad, but oftentimes if people have one, they're going to have the other.
Okay. And how it's been processed and used, and it's all that,
Exactly.
Yeah. And just check your body to it. Like, how do you feel when you're on it? How do you feel when you're not on it?
Yeah. And otherwise, eat plenty of fat. Don't restrict calories, so don't starve yourself because, again, the hungrier you are, the more you're going to just crave something quick.
Yes.
Because your body is like, oh, I'm starving, I'm dying. I just need quick energy so that I don't die.
Yep.
So, like, don't restrict calories. And then... Oh, here's an interesting thing. I had read this in Laura Bryden's Period Repair Manual.
Yes.
That's a good book. When we get into women's health, I definitely plan to pull from that one. She said, be aware that intense cravings usually subside after 20 minutes.
Oh.
Intense cravings. So if you are intensely craving sugar, if you can just...
Like go on a walk.
Put
on some music.
Or a movie.
Do a crossword.
Drink some water or do a puzzle or do
something else to
that
distract
you for 20 minutes. That craving should subside.
This is a good tactical information. Like I'm keeping this in my brain.
Yeah. And she actually said all cravings should subside after 7 days.
Okay.
Which is like, I've heard a variety of days.
But in that few, like 1 week to a few weeks.
That's
like
where
that
I think
zone.
it depends on the person and how addicted that they are. But that is pretty fast. Like that's a week with no sugar. So
let's do it.
All cravings, she said, should subside. The other thing you can do is supplement magnesium because magnesium reduces sugar cravings.
I was just going to say that. I feel like I always have a chocolate craving.
Yeah, if you're craving chocolate,
you need magnesium.
Yeah.
Okay. And I started taking some magnesium powder. I'll keep doing that.
Mm-hmm. So supplement magnesium and vitamin B6.
Okay.
Those are both things that can reduce cravings for sugar. And I think I read that St. John's wort is also one of the things that can reduce sugar cravings.
Really? Mm-hmm. And that's the other thing too, to know like our body is craving it because it's craving something good. So fill that craving with the good alternative.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then if you're not addicted to sugar and you want to eliminate it or lessen it in your life, I mean, truly, I don't think I was necessarily ever addicted to sugar in my life. I slowly phased it out.
Yeah.
And that worked for me. But I mean, some things you can do, like, first of all, if you're just going to take one step to reduce your sugar intake, stop drinking sugar.
Yes.
Stop drinking sugar.
It just sneaks in there. It's so much sugar and you just drank it away now it's gone.
Yeah. Like literally a 12-ounce Coca-Cola drink has 39 grams of sugar in it.
I mean, how is that like
I wish I had a visual to show you how much that is. Yes. But it's like a pile. Like if I was holding out my hands, it is just a massive pile of sugar. I actually have measured it out before.
Like a pop is so bad.
It's nasty. And actually okay, and it's not just sodas. Like I think when people think of sugary drinks, they think of sodas, but fruit juice is just as bad.
Oh yes. Well, yeah, we don't.
Sometimes worse.
Okay, we don't do fruit juices in my house.
Yeah,
that's true.
So literally, okay. So I looked up that the Naked Juice, their green machine.
Okay.
Guess how many grams of sugar it contains?
Half of 39. So let's do, what's that? 19 and a half? I don't know. What's my math here?
Probably. I was like, yeah,
that's the one. Okay.
Okay, 53 grams.
More than the pop.
More than a 12-ounce cola.
No.
The green machine, which I remember.
Yeah, I would have those to be healthy.
I would buy those, and I was like, oh, I'm buying the green machine one. Like, that will be healthier.
Healthy.
Because I was like, it's green. It's got, like, other good stuff in it. And it does. Like, it has, like, the chlorella and, like, stuff that's good. But 53 grams of sugar, that is so much.
That's so bad.
So it's really sneaky.
Sneaky.
And then, like, the other thing is, okay, so if you order coffee at, like, a coffee shop, that's a good habit to break in general. Okay. You know, if that is straight your black morning, coffee. If that is your morning routine is to like go to the coffee shop and get a vanilla latte, like that is so much sugar. So like at our like local coffee shop, I would get the honey cinnamon latte. And I was like, oh, it's honey, so whatever.
Yeah, it's all good.
And I get it like twice a week or whatever. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, I just was, but one day I asked them, like, how many grams of honey do you put in that? Because I saw them like, they freehand it now, but when they weigh it, 48 grams of honey.
No way.
I was like, shit. Twice a week I was getting, like once or twice a week I was getting, that's a lot of sugar.
That's a lot. That's funny because I never told them that I wanted less, but they would ask me because I think they saw me come in with you, and they would say, "Do you want the kid amount of honey?" And I was like, "Sure." Yeah. What does that mean? I'm sure.
Yeah. So even like I asked when I learned that, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, can you have that?" But eventually I was like, I can't do this. That's still like 24 grams of sugar.
So much.
And like if I was going after workout class with my husband before we got home, so I wasn't having that with like a protein or a fat or anything to offset all that sugar, which I will say, if you're going to have sugar in the morning right after you've worked out, probably the best time because your body has just burned a lot of like glycogen and sugar restores it. I'm not saying to do that. Yeah. I'm just saying if you're going to do it.
I'm going to go work out so I can have another cookie.
No. So anyway, things like that can be really sneaky. Okay. And so stop drinking sugar. If coffee is like, if you have to have a quarter cup of sugar in your coffee in order for coffee to taste good, stop drinking coffee.
Stop drinking it.
Stop drinking coffee.
Find something else to order at the coffee shop. I will say that I don't like coffee at night, but tea. So I've started to drink tea at the coffee shop just so I can fit in with people. Otherwise, I'm just like water. You know, that seems kind of rude.
Yeah.
So I'll get my tea and then I'll do less honey now and just have something to do. Otherwise, you feel out of it.
Well, and I realized too, for me, going to the coffee shop with my husband after workout, like we would do it on days when I didn't have to like go to work until later and we had some time in the morning. It wasn't really about the coffee, it was about that time with him.
Yes, in the event.
So I just started, and I like having something hot in a mug to hold in my hands. Yes. That is the comforting appeal to me. So I just would order like a mint green tea or something like that. Then I had a hot mug of something and I could sit and I could talk with him, but it wasn't like he was just drinking a cup of coffee by himself and I didn't have anything. Like I had a mug of something too, and it was more about that conversation and that ritual together. And so if you are drinking like alcohol or coffee or anything like that that's introducing sugar into your diet and you're doing it because you're in a social situation, find something to replace it with that's
the hot water and lemon or the whatever. Just
just like don't drink sugar. And then the next thing would be to stop eating added sugar. So like candy, chocolate bars, granola bars, cakes, cookies, packaged foods. Like
granola bars are sneaky. You think you're healthier because it's a granola bar.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so with you here.
Yeah. Any packaged food is going to have sugar.
Yes, yes, and it's like the second or third ingredient, or if it's not, it's like sugar split in different words. Yes,
I have a list. So here's if you're gonna buy something packaged, here's a list of like words to look for that are like. Oh, I shouldn't put that on the ground because that might give me. No, I'm good. Anyway, here's a list of alternative names for sugar. It's aliases. So
check the labels, folks.
Malt. Anything with the word malt in it, like malt syrup, maltose, barley malt, maltodextrin. Those are all sugar. Corn syrup, obviously. Evaporated cane juice, fructose, sucrose, dextrose, brown rice syrup, beet juice, sucanat, turbinado sugar, corn sugar, muscovado. Obviously, if it says sugar in the name, it's sugar. Mm-hmm. And then watch out for maple syrup and honey too. And I would add to that, like, watch out for dates because like date sweetened or fruit juice sweetened, like it's sugar.
Yeah, that was part of my transition. I ate a lot more dates, and now even eating those, I'm like, oh, they're so sweet.
Yeah,
but I use that as a transition piece. Yeah.
So watch out for those things in labels. So if you're going to, the easiest way is to stop buying prepackaged foods and buy whole foods that are single ingredient foods. So apples are a single ingredient food.
Yep.
Chicken is a single ingredient food.
Yes.
Eggs are a single ingredient food. That's what I mean by that.
Yep.
Anything else that's been processed, you're going to have to check the label. And probably the sneakiest thing is salad dressings.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So much sugar in salad dressings. So much sugar.
Gross. And canola oil. And like, it's just like bad oil and sugar. Then I'm like, wait. I tried to find, and there are some, like, at the natural grocery store, there are some, like, good alternatives, because I couldn't find any good. Yes! Amen to this.
And that's, like, I think that's one of the worst ones, because you buy it, and you're like, oh, I'm eating more salad.
I'm so healthy. I'm eating lettuce.
Coating it in sugar.
Yes!
Oh, my God. Why do people do that? Ugh.
Mm-hmm.
That and sweet pickles, that I will never understand. Just don't make foods that don't need to be sweet.
Oh, I love sweet pickles.
Oh, my God,
I'm there.
Barf.
They got me. Yep.
Yeah. So if you're gonna make a salad, just use olive oil and vinegar, like apple cider vinegar, balsamic vinegar, or I mean, you can make your own homemade dressings if you want to get fancy. But like that's probably like store-bought dressings. You have to look at the label, and you also don't want to be consuming those seed oils like sunflower seed oil, canola oil, vegetable oil. Nasty, so bad for you, so inflammatory. Those things, they trigger heart disease. And atherosclerosis. Just avoid them like the plague. They're awful. Those even things that say they're trans fat free, when those oils hit your body and the like heat of your body temperature hits them, it denatures them and turns them into trans fats.
Oh, because they took out trans fats and now we're at body. Okay.
But it still turns into trans fats in your body, so just avoid it.
Go back to earth foods, real earth foods.
Yep. Okay, yeah. So that's, again, if you're not addicted and you're looking to reduce sugar, those are the best ways to do it. Eat whole foods, single ingredient foods. Don't drink sugar. You don't need it. That's the thing is like that's the easiest way to cut out sugar because you don't need it. Like soda or sports drinks or juice. You literally will not die if you don't eat those. You won't die if you don't eat processed foods. In fact, you'll live a lot longer.
Yep. A lot longer.
What else you got for me?
Okay, I know. This would be on my, just on a personal note. Why do I crave sugar more when I'm either about to start or on my period? Women questions. Yeah. Like that, I noticed when I was cutting it out of my life, those couple days, there's maybe 3 days in there where I'm like, I don't care. I am eating this all. And I'd eat the whole whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think there's many layers to that. But the first thing that comes to my mind is, again, it's a trained response.
Oh, yes. And like the tub of ice cream.
Like the tub of ice cream. We see, like, in movies and TV shows when women are, like, PMSing.
Yes.
And they're approaching they're eating the ice cream, they're eating the brownies, they're like, I don't care. So again,
so right.
We're
Check
trained. We're taught that that's acceptable behavior.
Ooh, you're opening my mind up right now. Yes.
And then also you tend, because of like your hormone fluctuations. You tend to be more emotional. So for people that are emotional eaters,
I am an emotional eater. I am now understanding from this conversation. Yes,
they crave more sugar. That tends to be the comfort food people crave.
I need a new coping. Okay.
And then the other thing is, so when you're approaching your period, your estrogen and your serotonin levels drop. So when you're in your luteal phase, which is after you ovulate, when you're in your luteal phase, estrogen drops, serotonin drops, and progesterone rises. So estrogen and serotonin are natural appetite suppressants.
Oh.
Progesterone is a natural appetite stimulant.
No way.
So if you get pregnant, your progesterone levels rise, which is why one of the early signs of pregnancy is increased appetite.
Oh.
Because as you're approaching your period, first of all, your body needs to build the endometrial lining in case you are pregnant. It needs to, like your egg needs to have a place to plant.
Okay.
So your body is craving more fuel because you need to be able to feed
the baby.
You need to be able to build more of that endometrial lining. So if you're starving yourself, that's why women, like we call it the athlete triad, when they're not eating enough, they're not getting enough calories, and they're exercising way too much, that's when they stop having periods. Because they're not ovulating because their body's not in a healthy place, but B, they're not building an endometrial lining.
Okay.
Because they're literally not giving their body the fuel it needs to build up that lining.
Wow. So, for that female thing to do its female thing. Okay.
Yeah. So you're naturally hungrier as you're approaching your period.
So that's natural. Like
that's
this
natural,
is
and
not,
that's healthy. That's
it's
a
healthy
response.
And it's okay and it is good.
But as you get hungrier, you tend to crave sugar more. I mean, because it's quick energy, it's quick fuel. That's your body's natural response that comes from a time period when sugar was really scarce and you need sugar to build glycogen and other molecules that your body uses for energy. And so it's natural to crave things that give you sugar.
Okay.
Because it didn't used to be available and you needed to eat it when it was.
Yep. Okay.
When it was, you had to take advantage of it.
Okay. And now
it's just everywhere.
Fast forward to hyper modern world and we got sugar in a vending machine out in the cornfield here. So,
Yeah. And I also find that oftentimes during their periods, women need more magnesium. And again, magnesium deficiency is one of the things that triggers sugar cravings.
Ugh.
So getting more magnesium and B6 can help. And I think too, if you eat a lot of sugar during your period, you worsen all the effects of PMS.
I have noticed that as well. When I eat like garbage, my PMS is worse.
Way worse.
Again,
you crave more because that's part of PMSing is craving certain foods. Wow. So you're just creating that cycle. So if you're a menstruating woman, the best way to combat that is during that luteal phase after you ovulate. Well, first, get to know your cycles so that you know when you're ovulating and you know when your luteal phase is, and then you can read your body better.
Get that awareness.
It's okay to be more hungry and it's okay to eat more because increased progesterone also increases your metabolism.
Okay, so it's not like you're going to gain weight that week.
No. It balances out. So give yourself permission to eat more. Okay. But eat things that are satisfying and like healthy fats, like hard-boiled eggs and nuts and seeds. Don't go for sugar. Go for proteins. Go for fats, especially fats that leave you feeling full. Yes. And if you're eating, a healthy dinner, have a second serving of dinner if you're still hungry. Yeah. And then make sure you get extra sleep. So as you're in that approaching your period, then get all the sleep you need, more than you need. 8 to 9 to 10 hours is better during that phase, and that will help too.
I'm going to keep sleeping and eating healthy foods is what I think. And some emotional responses for coping in better ways is what I am gleaning from this.
Yeah. What else you got?
Okay. What are your favorite substitutions or alternatives? What do you think about sugar alcohols? All of those together. What are your good alternatives? How is the sugar alcohols? Tell me about that.
Yeah. So I would say, again, with substitutes, be careful. Okay. Because if you, like we talked about, if you're addicted to sugar, even though substitutes are better for you, you're still maintaining that response. Okay. So first break the addiction with sugar. Okay. Then I think substitutes are okay, knowing they could still trigger some of those addictive behaviors. Okay. Yes. But I would say like in first place, like there's several in first place, but my first tier of substitutions, one is raw honey. Okay.
Just watch the amount. Yep.
Yeah, because raw honey, even though it's high in fructose, which can like trigger a lot of those intense sugar cravings, it actually contains like hundreds and maybe thousands of vitamins, minerals, enzymes, and other bioactive compounds that do seem to buffer the effects of the fructose sugar.
Okay.
So normal sugar spikes your blood triglycerides and causes inflammation, and honey actually seems to do the opposite.
Okay.
It's pretty easy on your insulin. It doesn't necessarily cause that same insulin response. So, and in general, like darker honey is higher in those bioactive compounds. So go for the darkest stuff you can find.
Okay.
But the biggest caveat to that is it has to be raw. You cannot heat it at all.
Oh.
Because once you heat it, you deactivate all of those enzymes and bioactive compounds.
I did not know this.
And it basically becomes akin to corn syrup.
I did not know this.
Because of the fructose concentration in it is higher. It's like high fructose corn syrup.
You just blew my mind. Okay, only raw honey. Okay.
Only raw honey. And so that's why, like, yes, it's good for you, but most of the time when people are using sugar alternatives, it's in baking or it's in like drinks.
Yes.
And in order to dissolve honey into a drink, it has to be heated. So even putting it in your tea deactivates a lot of those compounds.
You blew my mind. Okay. I'm going to need I need a cold tea with honey, please.
Yeah. So that's the problem. And like I most often see it substituted in baking, but it's not really any better for you than like table sugar in baking because you've taken out all the good parts of it.
Wow. That's fascinating.
So,
okay.
yeah.
So get back to eating real good food. Okay.
Yeah. And so that's the thing is like, okay, this is where I get angry when people are like paleo or keto or whatever, is they still make a bunch of like baked goods or desserts. Like they're basically just trying to make healthier versions of those things. And that's okay.
Yep.
But like if you're having that every day, you're still exposing yourself to a lot of stuff you don't need.
Yep.
I mean, starches and sugars. And I know that like keto is like sugar free, but you also don't need to be like filling your body with all those sugar substitutes either.
Yep.
And all the starches that accompany it. I mean, nobody should be eating so much. Like, remember, just like we didn't evolve to eat so much sugar, we also didn't evolve to eat like 3 cups of almonds every day. Or like all of that. Unless you come from like a tropical indigenous tribe, you also didn't evolve to eat 3 cups of coconut every day. So like, just keep that in mind.
It is so human nature to want to like lean into one answer hard. Because I definitely jumped on the almond flour train. And then I took the Everlywell and found out I have a food sensitivity to almond. So I wasn't feeling good in my body. I was rashing out of my forehead. And then it was this dang almond flour, which also is over 900 calories a cup, which I was eating over a day. So, and just almond flour. So we're learning, Lainey. This is all learning.
Yeah. And you have to just go easy on yourself, right? Because you can't get so stringent. I'm bringing awareness to other things that people might not be thinking about. For baking though, if you need something sweet, I usually like xylitol or stevia. Xylitol is the most important thing with xylitol is to get it from birch trees. Okay. Because most xylitol comes from corn.
Okay. Birch,
so watch out
xylitol.
for that. And like corn tends to be GMO and you don't want to be exposing yourself to that. So look for the xylitol. It will say made from birch trees.
Okay.
And then stevia, make sure it's minimally processed.
Okay.
And xylitol is cool too because it actually can inhibit cavities and tooth decay, and stevia has been shown to improve blood sugar control.
Nice.
So those are good substitutes, but again, you don't want to continue if you're addicted. You don't want to just fill the void of sugar with other sweeteners. Yeah. Even though they're better for you because it's still an unhealthy response.
Okay. Try to break free. I still do have my xylitol chewing gum every day and my Lily's chocolate, and I don't think I can break that quite yet. I'm not ready for that.
And then I'll get there. You asked me about sugar alcohols. I think the biggest issue with sugar alcohols is that they can really, in higher quantities, they can cause GI upset. Okay. So like xylitol is one of those ones. Like,
my husband.
If you eat too much, it can like give you the poops.
Yes. My husband has said this, and I'm like, I don't notice. But my husband.
It upsets my husband's stomach too. I'm okay with it, but like, I put it in something one time, and it really threw him for a loop. Yeah. So.
Oh, that's funny.
So if you're going to have sugar alcohols, xylitol and erythritol are the best. Make sure you look for a non-GMO version or that birch tree version for the xylitol. They're less likely to cause GI distress, but like sorbitol, mannitol, maltitol, those are cheaper.
Okay.
Like cheaper to produce, and they don't affect your blood sugar, but they're way more likely to cause bloating and gas.
Okay.
And like,
is it worth the GI problems?
Well, that's up to the person.
Yeah.
So if you suffer with IBS or leaky gut,
okay,
you should stay away from sugar alcohols in general.
Okay.
Which so many people suffer from leaky gut.
Yes.
Like I think a much larger proportion of the population than we know.
Yes, I know I do. Yes.
That's the biggest problem with sugar alcohols is because they can aggravate the like intestinal lining. They can worsen some of those effects of the IBS and leaky gut. So that is my hesitation with them. Not that they're inherently bad, but they're not good for people who are already suffering GI problems, and that's so many people.
Yep.
So I know there's not really like a perfect solution. I would say the second tier would be pure maple syrup. It's pretty low in fructose, and it doesn't seem to affect your insulin as much as other sweeteners. Coconut sugar, again, has a lower blood sugar response than other sugars. It's mainly sucrose, and it does have some nutrients and vitamins, B vitamins, iron, potassium, zinc, magnesium. But again, coconut sugar is still sugar.
Yep.
Definitely avoid at all costs fructose, high fructose corn syrup, agave syrup, which is actually like worse than regular sugar because it's super high in fructose.
No.
It's like 70 to 90% fructose. It's kind of like high fructose corn syrup.
Oh,
that agave.
No.
Yeah. People got on the agave train for a while and then they got off of it real quick. If you're still on it, get off of it.
Okay. How funny that we think as humans, we just like link onto something that we think will save us. And then it's like, oh, wait. Okay.
It was worse.
Yep.
Yeah. And then aspartame, acylflamine, sucralose, those are artificial sweeteners, and those have been associated with higher risk of heart attacks and stroke and death. And aspartame can increase risk of atrial fibrillation and is linked with seizures, dementia, and Parkinson's disease. And sucralose, which is Splenda, is actually made by substituting chlorine for some of the molecules in regular sugar. So we're altering sugar and creating sucralose, which actually creates a molecule that's structurally similar to PCBs. So probably not the best.
So don't eat that. Take sugar and make it worse.
Yeah.
Like,
we turned it into a PCB. Good. Yeah.
So bad.
Yep.
So, oh my word. Okay. All right. Keep talking. I'm down to my last question, my ending one. But if you have any more information you want to give us before I ask that.
No, I think the last note I'll give you, because we had talked earlier about like how long does it take for sugar to get out of your system. I think you had asked me that. And one thing I wanted to touch on that I didn't earlier was with sugar and your immune health.
Yes, immune system. Sugar and immune system. Yes. This is a thing.
Which is interesting. So there's multiple ways that like sugar can impact your immune system. And I'm not going to get into all the like, scientific part of it. Like I would love to, but everybody will be bored to death, I think. But one way is that sugar can cause dysfunction in your neutrophils, which are your white blood cells. Those are the cells that like travel to a source of infection and like eat the pathogen. So sugar can cause defects in those cells. Okay. And prevent them from being able to destroy invading microorganisms. If you have high blood sugar, especially. So if you are eating a lot of sugar. So studies have shown, especially within 1 to 2 hours of a meal with sugar in it, your immune system is like completely deactivated.
Really?
Yeah.
And I have heard, I saw a podcast with Mark Hyman. Love him. They said even a teaspoon of sugar can lower your immune system.
Yeah. And it also, so your like white blood cells, so first they eat the foreign invaders and get them, like destroy them, get them out of your system. But they also help tag, like there's a part of your immune system that tags what is a foreign invader. Okay. Which is where autoimmunity gets really dangerous because your body starts tagging your own tissues as foreign invaders, and then other white blood cells go and attack. But sugar inhibits your ability to tag microorganisms. And so then even your body loses the ability to recognize what's a foreign invader and what's not, which can also contribute to the autoimmunity. Because that system, it's like that targeting system is being taken offline and the targets are blurry.
Okay.
And it also, like, another interesting thing is that sugar and vitamin C use a lot of the same metabolic pathways, and they compete for absorption into cells. So if you're eating too much sugar, your body, it's competing with vitamin C for uptake. And so your body can't uptake vitamin C, which you need vitamin C for your immune cells and for antioxidants and all of that.
Yeah.
So not all sugars affect the immune system equally, but the biggest problem is glucose in the form of sucrose.
Okay.
So fructose isn't benign to the immune system, but it doesn't affect it as much as sucrose does. But elevated fructose intake can cause more inflammatory cytokines. So that's where it can affect the immune system and cause it to release more inflammatory cells, which increases inflammation so it's not.
Okay.
Increased inflammation is equally bad, so it's not like exempt. Yeah. But it doesn't affect the immune system in the same way that like sucrose and glucose do. But yeah, even 100-gram dose of glucose, sucrose, fructose, honey, or orange juice significantly decreased the ability of neutrophils to eat bacteria.
Even orange juice.
And the greatest effects happened after 1 to 2 hours of eating the meal with sugar in it, but it continued 5 hours later.
Okay.
Yeah. Orange juice is like one of the worst sources of sugar because people think they're drinking it for their health, and they're like, oh, it's high in vitamin C and it's good. Like, what is that? Like, you're getting sick, oh, have a glass of orange juice, but it's actually like mostly pure sugar.
Okay. Even if it's just straight orange juice.
Yeah, because oranges are super high in sugar.
So, shoot. Okay. Dang.
Yeah. So it's not really clear if there's a threshold or a safe level of sugar that you could eat that wouldn't trigger that immune response. In the studies I read, 75 grams seemed to be the amount that they used in the studies, but that doesn't mean that something less than that wouldn't trigger that response.
Okay.
So there's not really... my best advice is if you're getting sick or it's cold and flu season, the best is just to avoid... sugar.
Yeah. Yep. No harm, no foul there.
Yeah, that was the last thing I think you had asked about, like, how long does it take to leave your body? The interesting thing is, and I didn't confirm this in studies, but your immune cells take about 4 to 6 months to turn over and die. And so, like, so if you damage your immune cells, my theory would be that damage could last for 4 to 6 months. I mean, if you're damaging...
Till a new one...
until like those cells die. Although your body should be able to recognize defective cells and remove them.
Wow.
But that's just my theory anyways, that if your immune cells take 4 to 6 months to die and be replaced, then damaging them with sugar, it seems like that could potentially have a really long-term effect. But the most immediate effects on the immune system have been studied and shown, within a couple of hours of eating a meal. So I didn't see anything long term.
Wow. Well, I am back motivated to be like, okay, clean that up, because I've been having, a little bit more oranges lately, a little bit more of that good stuff. So I'll have to replace the oranges with cucumber or something. We'll find something. I'll find something good.
Yeah, and again, it's like, it's 80-20, right? Like, if you're living this healthy lifestyle and you're having oranges... I mean, really, like, if that's the worst thing you're having,
we're doing all right. It's real
great.
Food.
Yeah.
Okay, and my final question for the episode for you, your opinion, Eleni, is sugar really so bad? And give me your rating.
What's my scale?
Let's do let's do 1 to 10, 10 being the biggest monster and 1 being a marshmallow monster.
A little puppy, cute
Just
monster.
a little cute monster. 10's a bad monster.
Oh, that's tough. Because I never want to villainize anything.
Yep.
But honestly, of all the things we consume, sugar has no health benefits.
Okay. Zero nutrients.
Zero nutrients.
Okay.
And it only causes dysfunction. So
yes.
I'd honestly have to put it at a 10.
Oh,
like it's kind of hard because I would need to see,
yes.
I think I would need to rate other unhealthy foods
compared to,
on the scale and compare
yes.
it. But I really
yes.
do feel like
no
sugar
nutrients
is the worst.
Okay.
You do need it. Like, you need it to survive.
For
like,
energy.
obviously, like, you need it. It's part of triglycerides. It's part of glycogen.
But you could get that in an orange.
Yeah, exactly.
So, right.
You can get it from fruit. And if you think about the fact that we used to eat 2 pounds a year.
Yep.
And now we eat 3 pounds a week.
Ugh, golly.
And we weren't
check yourself
dying of a sugar deficiency when we were eating 2 pounds a year.
Yep.
And so obviously you don't need it in the quantities we're eating it. And like our caveman ancestors, like they were eating meat that they hunted.
Yep.
And if they were eating fruit, it was berries that they harvested. Or even like apples, like it was crab apples back then. Like the modern day apple that we eat was cultivated. Okay. I mean, all apples originate from crab apples.
Okay.
Which, have you ever eaten a crab apple?
I don't think
they are not sweet.
Okay.
They're tiny. They're sour. I've eaten them before. Too. They're tiny and they're sour.
Okay.
And then we created like modern day apples from crab apples by like just selecting trees that produce bigger, sweeter fruit.
Yep.
And over time you can do that.
Yep.
It's the same with all fruit trees. So it's not like just all this fruit that we get and have access to all year long. Like, first of all, our caveman ancestors, like, they lived through the winters. They weren't going to the grocery store getting cherries shipped in from Chile to them. So we have access even to fruit way more than our ancestors did. And we weren't evolved to eat it in those quantities.
Ah, yes.
So honestly, like, you do need starches, you need sugars, you need them to build glycogen.
Females, we do,
And females especially, like, you need it for a healthy cycle. You need it to produce the energy your body needs. Like, anyway, you do need those
slow
things.
Your roll.
Yeah, but you could get that from eating sweet potatoes or like wild berries. I mean, if that was the only sugar our ancestors got was like wild berries that they found, or like crab apples, and it was you didn't have it at all during the winter. I mean, that stuff doesn't grow during the winter. So so I don't want to be so rigid on it that like I create this weird fear response in people. But honestly, of all the things we eat that we don't need to, it's probably the worst. I mean, maybe besides alcohol, which we also don't need.
Oh, that's fair.
Like, we legit don't need that at all. So
that's
like
fair.
Maybe alcohol's a little bit worse.
Okay, that is fair.
Maybe like sugar is 9.9 on the scale.
Oh, and I will say the sugar is almost a little tricky too, just because how it's turned into our best friend. Yeah. So then it's a sneaky villain. Like the sneakiest villain is, or the worst kind is the sneaky one.
Because I would say that the benefit of sugar is that it triggers those pleasure centers, and so it makes people temporarily feel happier.
Oh yeah, we can appreciate that.
Like, you could appreciate that, but then that's also, again, going back to, okay, but why do you need sugar to do that for
the tub of ice cream?
Yeah.
Find healthier ways to release those hormones. And
and there are so many other things that are more effective at making you feel happier, like going for a walk and getting exercise. I think exercise, I remember reading a study that showed that exercise was more effective at curing depression than antidepressants.
I could see that with the hormone released afterwards.
So if you're struggling with depression, don't use sugar to make you feel happier. Exercise. Go for a walk.
Because the sugar after the high, it goes lower. Mm-hmm. Where the exercise will taper off and give you confidence and make you feel better. And
so, I struggle to find benefits.
Yeah. Well, thank you for all this knowledge on this. And thank you for helping me personally on my sugar busting journey.
Yes.
And thank you for all this knowledge for everyone out there that you can listen to this and hopefully make small changes or big changes in your life with sugar. And I appreciate all the knowledge that you have. And thank you for all your studies on this.
Yeah, you're welcome. This was fun. This was a good first series.
This was good. And I think really tangible, like go home now and like you can start like changing your habits, throw in some more better coping strategies, throw out put the candy in the trash can and the salad dressings and kind of start over. So I think this is a good helper for the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Who knows what we'll talk about next time? I don't know. We haven't decided on our next topic.
I know. We'll have to dream it up. Something good. You could, as soon as your Instagram, your Renegade Nutritionist, send her some messages. As soon as she checks it, she'll see what our topic can be.
That'd be helpful. Tell us what you want to hear podcasts on, like what nutritional topics you want to know more about. My Instagram handle is _renegade_nutritionist. So reach out to me there. Send me a message.
Oh, we do have a few interviews coming up with some local kind of alternative cutting edge people in the health world. So we're excited for that.
Yes.
So thank you for following along with us, and go be renegades.
Go be renegades.
Thank you for listening to the Renegade Nutrition Podcast. Follow us on all social media platforms and on our website, therenegadenutritionist.com.
Please keep in mind that all of the information given in this podcast is not intended or implied to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment.
Go be renegades.